Hello, everybody. This is David from VyLos, and Hassan is with me. And today we are flipping a little bit the roles. Usually, Hassan interviews me and plays the role of the one who poses the question. But today we flip it around, since AI is not only about tech. So, Hassan, that's already my opening question. I'm the technical part in our duo usually, but when we talk with companies, they say, "Yeah, the tech is the easy part, and the humans are the hard part." So, what do you think about this thing?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I feel like for this call, I'm going to channel a lot of the conversation that I had with Kara Sundar, who is a change manager and executive coach at PwC that I talked to a while back. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The tech is in place, and there's been lots of transformations over the decades and the years, right? Like internet or moving from handwritten to typewriter. I mean, all sorts of tech has come about, but really, I think change is hard for people. And I think what I see on a daily basis coming from the business side of it and also previously the facilitation side is change is always hard. So I think, the real question is how do people embrace that and how do companies and leaders make way for that to happen?
Yeah, that makes totally sense. So, also in times of AI, everybody's talking about AI productivity and transformation and everything like this. And I'd like to ask you about executive AI stewardship. So, what is that, and why should C-suite leaders care at all?
Yeah, well, I think so. One thing that we see a lot in our work is that when people think of AI, they think of drafting an email or summarizing a PDF or looking through a contract for specific terms, and that's fine. But we really want to push, companies and push leaders to think in a deeper way. So, executive AI stewardship is really a fundamental shift from extraction to custodianship. It really means leaders should be asking, how do we lead an organization, protect a brand's trust, redesign business systems when intelligent agents can operate across every function, right? So executive AI stewardship and C-suite leaders need to think of this. It's not about what software license should we buy. They ask how finance must evolve forecasting, or how legal must redefine contract risk, and how HR must restructure talent development. So enterprises thrive in the long term, not just these quick, small operational wins.
Yeah, makes sense. You just talked about it a little bit about system redesign. So, what is the biggest mistake you see that enterprises make when they deploy AI or when they think about their systems?
Yeah, we've seen this a lot. So I think part of it is that you really shouldn't just push through manual tasks that are already in place and just AI them. I think that's the wrong way. Don't take a broken manual process and slap AI on top of it and make bad processes run 20% faster. You really have an opportunity to think from a system perspective and look across these key functions. So if we look at, for example, operations and procurement, instead of just using AI to read vendor invoices faster, you can actually redesign supplier onboarding in an autonomous pipeline where these agents can continuously audit vendor compliance. So we have a company, for example, that needs a check to make sure their childcare approved centers stay compliant. They need to put these children in those approved vendors. Well, having a human look at that every 2 weeks makes no sense. You can automate that in a way and take that time off from a human and also stop the errors. We see this in customer support. So instead of making a chatbot deflect tickets, you can actually build proactive support architecture where AI detects account anomalies and resolves them with underlying billing or system issues before the customer even reaches out to complain or notice.
Yeah, that makes totally sense. But then what comes to mind instantly is, of course, governance and regulation and observability. And can I trust this AI when I redesign the systems of my company and I hand it over to some AI agent thing? Usually, I would feel a little bit anxious about it, or I would think, oh my God, what am I doing if this goes rogue? So when leaders hear AI governance, they often think of more restrictive policies and that could slow down the innovation. How would you reframe this?
Yeah, I think so. You know, very quickly to say ethics and decisions on ethics are something that humans should make. And that's what we really believe. So, and there also in the future, there will be laws that require this. We already see this coming up in HR and credit scores and diagnosis. So this is true. So for sure, governance is really important, and I really recommend that leaders and companies, when we talk to them, you shouldn't think of it as a speed bump. I also have an AI course on this that I launched. I'll put in the link for anyone that's interested in checking that out. But governance isn't a speed bump. It's really guardrails to make sure that you can drive faster within the right lane, right? So we want to move executives away from treating this as a legal checklist and really building towards a culture of human in the loop judgment. So defining clear operational thresholds across functions. So in legal, routine non-disclosure agreements or standard term reviews, they could run autonomously through custom guidelines, but complex acquisition negotiations need human legal counsel, right? Like you can't. So I think you're laughing because we see this so much, right? Or
yeah, there are examples also in U.S. courts where lawyers get caught on hallucinated statements in legal documents, and of course that's very horrible thing to do. Yeah.
yeah, I think also then in HR, internal knowledge tools like AI policy assistant can answer questions from employees, but performance evaluations or employment decision really requires human oversight. That should be a cultural governance policy that's in place, and it shouldn't move even though technology might be able to do something with it. So
Yeah, and we might see more regulations in the future, which makes this a mandatory law anyway. So yeah, it's good to start with this, I guess. Um, and of course, the AI landscape is right now mind-boggling because there is so many resources flowing into it, and kind of every week you have a new model, and every day you have new tools and new opinions and frameworks, and so it's absolutely overwhelming and a lot of noise. And usually in a company, you always ask yourself, especially as a leader, do we build or do we buy new technology? And how should C leaders navigate through this build versus buy decision in times where every week there is a new shiny thing?
yeah, I think it's always been a challenge for leaders, right? So in big companies and small companies alike. So I think often in our work we see that, especially when it comes to AI, one of the biggest challenges is that even though companies have internal resources, do they have the time to actually do it while they're running their full-time job? They might be building software, they might be building frameworks already, and so to slap AI onto their shoulders as well, that's one of the reasons why 75% of companies actually buy. And part of the buying process too is that it should be, with tested companies that know what they're doing. So I really recommend to reserve your engineering capital if you have any IT ability to build around your company's unique data and those things that are very unique to your organization. But anything that can be utilized with an outside resource that can be done faster, a POC can be built up faster, or can be executed more properly, I think that's when you should really look to a trusted partner or a trusted tool in that way.
This leads me to the question, as a leader, they kind of need to process all the information out there, and they need to know the internal processes and their teams and everything. And so they kind of have to be AI ready. So a board needs to be AI ready. What does that mean to you?
I think the first part of that is we talk to so many people that have listened to one podcast or went to one conference or have read one article about AI, and when we talk to them, it's just complete buzzwords about the different new buzzwords that are happening today. And so I think it's really important that any executive leader can walk into a board meeting, present a clear, risk mitigated strategy without getting trapped in technical IT jargon or making reckless promises. Boards aren't asking how many employees downloaded a chatbot, right? They ask high level questions. So in finance and ops leaders, they ask, are we realizing hard margin expansion or just paying for unused software seat licenses? In legal and HR, like we talked about, what is our risk exposure around intellectual property, workforce reskilling, or data privacy? So board readiness means translating AI capabilities into enterprise risk narratives. So it's important that executives and leaders can speak to that without fumbling and without reaching in ways that they are unsure of. So just to say right off the bat, we often, when people bring us in to do projects with them or talk about this, workshops, consulting, or implementation, normally they ask us to start in an area that is something we push them away from, mostly, which is really funny because they know they have a problem. They just don't know the right way to look at it. And I think that's something we see over and over again.
Yeah, you need to be educated and need to have an idea to see this, from an educated perspective. This leads me to kind of dog feeding. So using the tools you teach, do you see a way that C leaders even use the AI tools or AI capabilities in the day-to-day work to understand the technology better?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. One thing is, like we talked about at the beginning, AI shouldn't be used for basic emails and summarizing things. If you're at a leadership level, you want more time with high level thinking, you want more time with relationship building, you want more time to actually manage your team. So if I'm a marketing leader, I want to use AI to analyze cross-channel campaign data, and generate variance explanations and run competitive scenarios. If I'm a finance leader, I want to automate routine quarterly finance reports and anomaly detection. And so, these are the things that I want to do as a leader and harness AI for. I think a big part of this is there's lots of different ways that you can do that. I think we talk to organizations every day that have Claude licenses or Gemini licenses or Azure licenses, something like that, which is great. And they have their own trainings in many cases that are provided, especially at large organizations. But I think there's not always that specific tailored, I'm doing this, what should I be looking at now? So I think as close as they can get to that is going to be really helpful. And really, just to call it out, the goal of role efficiency, like knowing AI for your role, isn't that computers do more work. It's to free you up so that your bandwidth can be more spent on high stakes decisions and relationships.
Yeah, that leads directly to another question. I've heard you make that AI should actually make leaders more human. So that's kind of a little bit counterintuitive. So how can it make leaders more human?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I would always love to have more time in my day, and that's the shorter, right? If I spend less time doing tedious, mindless tasks and using a system that will do that for me, then I become more human. I have more time, I have less stress, I make better decisions, and so that's really what we are excited about, and that's what we've seen. So at a day-to-day level, AI can transform someone that's processing mail so they don't have to open up mail all day. But at the executive level, it's taking hours and hours off of those, like we said, those big overview reports or those big decision-making processes to get the data in front of them to then make those ethical or relationship decisions. So
Yeah, wonderful. That sounds great. So we are nearly through with our session already. So this leads me to the final question. If you could leave executive listeners with one action item today, what would it be?
I would say make sure to stop measuring vanity activity. How many people are using how many tokens per day? That's not something that you want to measure, and start measuring systematic outcomes. So run an honest evaluation of your enterprise readiness for governance, system architecture, functional capabilities, across all the departments that we mentioned and more. And, ask yourself, are we buying software licenses or are we building executive stewardship required to lead this company now and in the future and be ready for what's to come? And I think a big part of this is there's a lot of fear around making the wrong decision, looking stupid, saying the wrong things, and it's challenging right now. And so, hopefully a small part of what we share each week and what I share today would be helpful. And yeah, thanks again for asking the questions, David.
Yeah, thank you for the answers. And great session again. And yeah, looking forward to our next session then. And yeah, also to the listeners, of course, we help with the whole framework and going through these questions, and we can help with our experience both on implementation and on mentorship. And yeah, if you feel seen by what we talked about, then please reach out. We're happy to help.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, Hassan.